She forgave her father's Lakota killer, then fell in love with the war chief. The hot sun of Red Mesa burned down on the small frontier town, making the dust rise in soft clouds around the wooden buildings. Clara stood outside her ranch, brushing the dirt off her boots. The wind carried the scent of dry earth and distant metal. Even on this peaceful morning, her thoughts were heavy. She could still remember the day her father died, the fire in his eyes when he tried to protect their homestead. The chaos, the smoke, and the men on horseback, the Lakota warriors who had stormed their land. It had been years, but the memory was still fresh. Clara had grown strong and careful because of it. She learned how to ride, shoot, and survive on her own. Her ranch was small, with a few animals and a garden, but it was hers. She had built a life where she could face the world without fear, or so she thought. News came that shook her carefully built world. A Lakota war chief, Tok, was coming to Red Mesa. Clara froze when she heard it. The name brought back the shadow of her father's killer. Her heart beat fast and anger rose in her chest, but curiosity mixed with fear. Could this be the same man or just another warrior from the past? When Tok arrived, the town fell silent. His tall figure moved with quiet strength. His eyes were sharp, but there was no cruelty in them. Clara felt both anger and something she could not name. He dismounted his hoverhorse and walked toward her. The town watched from behind wooden fences and shuttered windows. "Clara," he said softly, "I have come to speak. I mean no harm." Clara's hand hovered near her pistol. Her voice was cold. "Why are you here after what your people did?" Tok looked at her not with hatred, but with a kind of sadness. "That day, it should never have happened. I tried to stop it. I was not the one who led it, but I carry its weight as my people do." Clara wanted to hate him. She wanted to throw words like knives, but she also felt the truth in his eyes. He was not a monster. He was a man who had survived a terrible past just like her. The meeting was tense. Words were careful, measured. Clara's anger was strong, but so was her curiosity. She wanted answers. She wanted justice. And somewhere deep inside, she wondered if forgiveness was possible. That night, Clara could not sleep. She walked through her ranch under the stars, thinking about Tok. The desert around Red Mesa was quiet, with only the sound of the wind and the distant hum of hovercars. Memories of her father came again, but now they were mixed with new thoughts. Tok's face, calm and honest, lingered in her mind. The next morning, Clara rode out to check her fields. She saw movement in the distance. Tok was there, waiting. He raised a hand in greeting. Clara felt a strange pull. She could not explain it. "I want to help," he said. "Your land is not safe. There are raiders who come from the outer planets. They seek to take what you have built." Clara narrowed her eyes. "Why would you help me? You are one of them." "I am not your enemy," Tok said. "I fight for peace now. I have fought my battles. I fight only to protect, not destroy." Something in her mind hesitated. Could she trust him? She had learned to survive alone, but maybe she did not have to. Maybe the past could stay in the past if she chose it. They worked together cautiously. Clara watched him, noting how he treated the land, how he cared for the animals, and how he respected the people of Red Mesa. He taught her ways to defend her ranch from space raiders, combining old frontier tactics with new technology. Laser pistols, hover horses, and energy shields, all were strange to Clara, but under Tok's guidance she learned to use them. The days passed, and the tension between them slowly changed. Clara saw his honor and courage. She saw that he was not the man who had taken her father's life, but someone striving to protect others. She still held pain in her heart, but it was no longer sharp and burning. It dulled and curiosity grew in its place. One evening they rode across the desert together. The sky above was a mixture of orange and purple with stars beginning to appear. Clara looked at Tok, riding silently beside her. "Why did you come here?" she asked. "To make things right," he said. "To protect those who cannot protect themselves, and to see if forgiveness is possible." Clara did not answer. She did not know what she felt. Forgiveness seemed impossible, yet she could not deny the respect she felt growing inside. She remembered her father, not with anger, but with love. Maybe that was the first step toward letting go. A sudden sound broke the quiet. Hoverbikes were approaching fast. Raiders from the outer planets, armed with illegal weapons, were heading toward the town. Clara's heart raced. She reached for her pistol and Tok readied his own weapon. They rode toward the danger together, side by side. The wind whipped around them as they closed in on the raiders. Clara's mind was sharp and her hands steady. She realized that she was not alone. Tok was there, and together they could face the threat. The raiders opened fire with plasma rifles, the bright beams cutting across the desert. Clara and Tok moved quickly, using the terrain to their advantage. Rocks and hills became shields. Hover horses leapt over obstacles with speed and precision. Clara felt adrenaline, fear, and excitement all at once. Tok's movements were fluid, almost like a dance. He protected the people behind them, deflecting attacks and guiding Clara through the chaos. She realized how much she had underestimated him. He was not only brave, but intelligent, a leader who thought ahead. When the dust settled, the raiders had been driven off. Red Mesa was safe, for now. Clara's chest heaved with exhaustion, and she felt a strange sense of relief. She looked at Tok. He had saved her, saved the ranch, and saved her people. "Thank you," she said quietly. Tok nodded. "It is not over," he said, "but it is a start." Clara knew he was right. The future of Red Mesa would still be difficult. Raiders, the harsh desert, and the weight of history would not disappear. But for the first time, she felt that she could face it, not alone, but with someone she could respect and maybe even trust. That night, Clara stood on the porch of her ranch, looking at the stars. She thought about her father, about the pain, and about Tok. Forgiveness was not simple, and it would not come easily, but maybe it was possible. Maybe the first step was understanding, and the next step would be trust. Somewhere deep inside, Clara felt a flicker of something she had not felt in years. Not anger, not hate, but a cautious hope. She did not know where it would lead. Perhaps to friendship, perhaps to something more. But for the first time, the past did not feel like a chain around her heart. As the desert wind whispered through the canyon, Clara made a silent promise to herself. She would not let her father's death define her forever. She would face the future with courage, and perhaps with the war chief at her side. And somewhere in the shadows, Tok watched the stars too. He knew the path ahead would be hard. But for the first time, he saw a chance, not only to protect the town and its people, but to heal a wound that had lasted too long. The frontier was dangerous, the universe was vast, and the past was heavy. Yet hope, like the first light of dawn, had begun to shine on Red Mesa. The morning sun rose slowly over Red Mesa, casting long shadows across the dusty streets and the wide-open desert beyond. Clara was already awake, moving quietly through her ranch. Her muscles ached from yesterday's battle, but her mind was sharp. The attack by the space raiders had been sudden and dangerous, and she could not ignore the warning it carried. There would be more trouble coming, and Red Mesa was vulnerable. Tok stood near the edge of the ranch, looking out across the plains. His tall figure seemed steady, almost unmovable, yet there was a quiet energy about him, like a coiled spring ready to act. Clara approached him, her boots stirring up small clouds of dust. "We need a plan," she said. Her voice was firm, carrying both authority and worry. "If the raiders come back, and they will, we must be ready." Tok nodded. "I know, that is why I came here. Your town is small. Your people are not prepared for what is coming. I can help. Together, we can defend your land." Clara paused, studying him. She remembered the anger that had filled her heart when she first heard of his arrival. He was connected to her father's death, yet now he offered help. Could she trust him? Her father's memory urged caution, but her survival instincts whispered that she might not have another choice. "All right," she said finally. "We work together, but one wrong move and I won't hesitate." Tok bowed his head slightly, acknowledging her warning. "I would expect nothing less." The next hours were spent preparing the ranch and the town. Clara and Tok inspected weapons, checked hover horses, and trained the townspeople in defensive maneuvers. The combination of frontier grit and interstellar technology made the preparations unusual but effective. Plasma rifles were placed on strategic points, energy shields were set up near the town's entrance, and small trenches were dug for cover. Clara watched Tok as he instructed the ranch hands. He moved with confidence and precision. Even when a young boy fumbled with a weapon, Tok's patience never faltered. Clara noticed how his eyes softened when he helped others, how he encouraged them rather than scolding them. For the first time, she began to see him not as the man who was connected to her father's death, but as a leader, a protector. As the day passed, Clara could not shake the feeling of tension in the air. Red Mesa was calm now, but she knew the peace was fragile. The desert beyond the town stretched endlessly, a place where danger could appear at any moment. She mounted her hoverhorse and rode toward the edge of the plains, with Tok following beside her. "We need to scout the area," he said. "The raiders may return from a different direction. They are smart, but they underestimate those who prepare." Clara tightened her grip on the reins. I don't like being out here, too many open spaces. Talk gave a small smile. The open spaces are also where we can control the fight. Watch, anticipate, and move quickly. That is how we survive. Hours passed as they rode together across the plains. They observed tracks, checked the horizon for movement, and practiced maneuvers. Clara found herself paying close attention to Talk's methods. He was not only strong and fast, but intelligent. Every movement, every decision seemed calculated. She felt a strange respect building inside her. By late afternoon, they returned to the ranch, exhausted but satisfied. The town felt safer with the preparations in place, and Clara allowed herself a small sense of relief. But even as she rested, she could not ignore the fluttering curiosity she felt toward Talk. His presence was steady, yet there was something about the calm way he faced danger that made her heart beat differently. She quickly pushed the thought aside. She could not afford distractions. That evening, the town gathered for a meeting. Clara and Talk addressed the settlers, explaining the plan to defend Red Mesa. The townspeople were nervous but hopeful. Talk's words were measured and reassuring. He spoke not as a stranger, but as someone who understood their fear and wanted to help. After the meeting, Clara walked to the edge of the canyon, alone. The sun dipped low, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. She felt the cool breeze against her face, carrying the scent of desert sage. Talk joined her silently, standing a few feet away. "You are thinking," he said softly. "What troubles you?" Clara shrugged. "I am thinking about the past, about my father, and about you. I do not know if I can trust this alliance." Talk nodded. "I understand, trust is not given lightly. I have carried the past with me for years. I cannot erase it, but I can choose what I do now. That is all any of us can do." Clara looked at him, seeing sincerity in his eyes. She realized that he did not ask for forgiveness yet, but he hoped to earn it through action. The thought unsettled her. Could she forgive someone connected to her father's death? Could she let go of anger that had burned for years? Before she could answer, a sudden signal came from the town. Clara and Talk mounted their hover horses and raced back. A group of raiders had been spotted on the horizon, moving fast, their weapons glinting in the last light of day. The battle began quickly. Clara fired her plasma pistol with precision, dodging energy blasts and leaping over rocks. Talk moved beside her, directing townspeople and engaging raiders with skill. The chaos was fierce, but together they created order from it. Clara noticed how naturally she worked with Talk. Their movements matched, as if they understood each other without words. When a raider charged at her from behind, Talk was there in a heartbeat, blocking the attack and pushing her out of harm's way. The raiders were relentless, but Clara and Talk's combined leadership held strong. The townspeople followed their guidance, using terrain and technology to their advantage. Hover horses leapt over obstacles, laser beams deflected by shields, and clever maneuvers forced the attackers into retreat. When the dust settled, the raiders had been driven off again. Clara's chest heaved with exhaustion, her arms sore from firing her weapon. She looked at Talk, who stood calm despite the chaos, his expression unreadable. "You did well," he said quietly. "Your skills are impressive." Clara felt a flicker of pride, but also something more, a warmth she could not explain. "We did well," she corrected. "Together," Talk nodded. "Yes, together." Later that night, Clara sat by her small fire outside the ranch. She thought about the day's events, the danger, the strategy, and the way Talk had acted. He was honorable, brave, and capable, and yet he carried the shadow of her father's death. The thought confused her feelings. Anger was still there, but it was no longer the strongest emotion. Respect and cautious curiosity had begun to replace it. Talk approached the fire and sat down beside her, keeping a respectful distance. "The raiders will return," he said softly. "But we have made them think twice. Red Mesa is not easy to take." Clara nodded. "I hope you are right. I hope this time the peace lasts longer." He studied her for a moment. "Peace begins with understanding, not only between people, but within ourselves. You carry your father's memory as I carry the memory of the past. We cannot change what happened, but we can choose what happens now." Clara stared into the fire, thinking about his words. Could she let go of anger? Could she see him not as the enemy, but as someone trying to protect what mattered? The desert night was quiet except for the crackle of the fire. Clara realized that she had survived many battles already, not just against raiders, but against grief, anger, and fear. Facing the future with Talk at her side might be another kind of challenge, one she was not sure she was ready for. Yet, As she looked at him under the starlit sky, she felt a shift inside herself. Trust was not given easily, but maybe it could grow slowly, like a small flame that would not be extinguished. Maybe the frontier could be dangerous and cruel, yet it also held hope, hope that past wounds could heal, and that even the most unexpected bonds could form in the harshest of places. Clara finally spoke, her voice quiet but steady. "I do not know if I can forgive the past yet, but I know we need to protect what is here, what is ours, and for that I can work with you." Talk's eyes softened. "That is all I ask, one step at a time. That is how understanding grows." The fire crackled between them as they sat in silence, watching the desert stars. The uneasy alliance they had formed yesterday had begun to take root. Clara did not yet trust him fully, but she felt that the bond they were building could survive the challenges ahead. Somewhere deep inside, she felt the faint spark of courage, and maybe something more. She could not name it yet, but she knew that the days ahead would test them both. Raiders, corporate threats, and the harsh frontier would challenge their strength. But together, they had a chance to face it. And in that moment, under the endless desert sky, Clara realized that the first step toward trust and understanding had been taken. It would not be easy, and the past was never far behind, but for the first time in years, she did not feel completely alone. The morning sun rose over Red Mesa once more, painting the desert in gold and orange. Clara stood on the edge of her ranch, watching her animals graze and her fields sway in the light wind. The town felt safer now, after the last raid, but her heart was uneasy. Danger could return at any moment, and the galaxy's frontier was never calm for long. Talk appeared silently beside her, as he often did. He had become a familiar presence, moving with the confidence of a warrior, yet with a patience that surprised Clara. She turned to him, noticing the way his eyes caught the sun, bright and sharp. "You worry too much," he said softly. "Red Mesa is strong now, and so are you." Clara shook her head. "I do not worry for me, I worry for the town, for the people, and sometimes for what comes next." Talk studied her carefully. "What comes next can be hard, but together we face it better than alone." Clara wanted to argue, but the truth of his words sank into her. Alone, she had survived. Together, they could protect Red Mesa and maybe even change what the future held. They spent the day preparing defenses again. Raiders could strike from any direction, and this time, Clara insisted on more careful planning. She and Talk inspected the town's perimeter, checking energy shields and laser turrets. The townspeople worked under their direction, gaining confidence as they saw the two leaders act together. While working, Clara began to notice small details about Talk. How he treated each person with respect. How he never raised his voice unnecessarily. How his eyes softened when he spoke to children or helped someone who struggled with the heavy equipment. She realized that he carried a deep sense of honor, one that had nothing to do with the violence of the past. By midday, Clara and Talk rode together across the plains to scout the surrounding area. The wind swept past them, and the desert stretched endlessly in every direction. Clara felt the thrill of freedom and the weight of responsibility at the same time. "You have changed since the first time we met," Talk said after a while, his voice quiet but steady. "You carry grief and anger, but also strength and wisdom. It is rare to see both in one person." Clara glanced at him, startled by the words. "And what do you see in me?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "I see someone who fights for what is right," he said simply. "Someone who will protect her people and her land, and someone who has the courage to face her own heart even when it is difficult." Clara's stomach twisted. She did not want to admit it, but his words touched her. She had spent years building walls around herself, protecting her heart from pain. And yet, here was a man who did not ask her to forget, but offered understanding instead. As the sun dipped low, a sudden signal reached them. Clara's communicator beeped urgently. Raiders were approaching again, but this time they were not alone. A corporate mining syndicate had sent troops with advanced drone technology, seeking to seize Red Mesa's rich mineral deposits. Their weapons were powerful, their tactics precise, and their numbers far greater than the last attack. Clara's heart pounded. This was no ordinary raid, it was a calculated strike. She turned to Talk. "We cannot fight them the same way, we are outnumbered." Talk nodded, his expression calm but focused. "We will fight smart, use the terrain, use the technology, and we fight together." They raced back to the town, alerting the settlers and preparing the defenses. Clara felt a surge of determination. The past was heavy, but the present demanded courage. She could not let fear control her. The first wave of the Syndicate's forces arrived just as twilight turned the desert sky deep purple. Drones hovered over the town, scanning for weaknesses. Soldiers advanced with energy rifles, their steps synchronized and precise. Clara's pulse quickened. This was unlike any fight she had faced before. Talk gave orders calmly, directing townspeople to strategic positions. Clara moved alongside him, her plasma pistol ready, her hoverhorse steady beneath her. The battle erupted with the clash of energy beams and the rumble of hoverbikes racing across the desert. Clara ducked behind a rock as a drone fired at her. She returned fire, disabling the machine before it could harm anyone. Beside her, Talk fought with skill and precision, taking down threats and protecting others. They moved as one, instinctively understanding each other's actions. At one point, a drone targeted a group of settlers trying to escape the town. Talk leaped onto his hoverhorse and charged, firing with exact aim, destroying the machine before it could harm anyone. Clara watched him, her heart racing, not just from fear but from admiration. She had never seen such courage, such focus. When the first wave was finally repelled, the town breathed a small sigh of relief. But Clara knew the battle was not over. The Syndicate would return, stronger and more determined. She also knew something else. Talk had earned her trust. She could rely on him, not because of the past, but because of the choices he made now. That evening, after the battle, Clara and Talk walked together through the quiet streets. The town was safe for the moment, the settlers checking on their homes and loved ones. The desert sky glittered with stars, and the wind carried the scent of sage and dust. Clara spoke first, her voice quiet. "You fought bravely today. I was wrong to judge you before. Not everything about the past is your fault." Talk looked at her, his eyes calm but intense. "I never asked you to forgive me. That must come from you if it comes at all. I only ask that you see who I am now, not who I was connected to in the past." Clara thought about her father, about the pain that had shaped her. She thought about the battles they had fought together, the lives they had saved, and the courage she had seen in Talk. Slowly, she felt the walls around her heart soften. "Maybe," she said carefully, "maybe trust can grow little by little." Talk nodded. "Little by little is enough." As they continued walking, Clara felt a warmth she had not experienced in years. Not love, not yet, but the beginnings of something fragile and unexpected. The connection between them had shifted from fear and suspicion to respect, and maybe something deeper. The next day, Clara and Talk trained the townspeople further, teaching them how to use the weapons and terrain to their advantage. They practiced defensive formations, ambushes, and quick escapes. Clara noticed that working together made her feel stronger. She was learning from Talk and he from her. Their teamwork was becoming seamless. In the quiet moments between training sessions, they spoke of their lives, their pasts, and the choices that had shaped them. Talk shared stories of his people, of battles fought for survival and honor, of his attempts to prevent unnecessary bloodshed. Clara shared memories of her father, of the life she had built after loss, and the fear she carried for the future. Each story brought understanding. Each shared memory built a bridge between two worlds, one shaped by grief and anger, the other by honor and duty. Clara realized that Talk was not the enemy. He was a man shaped by his own struggles, fighting to protect what he loved. As night fell, they sat on a small rise outside the town, watching the stars emerge. The desert was quiet, and the fires of the town glowed softly below them. Clara spoke quietly. "I do not know what comes next. The Syndicate will return and there will be more battles, but I feel something here that I have not felt in a long time. Safety, maybe, trust, perhaps." And she paused, unsure how to finish the thought. Talk turned to her, his gaze steady. "And hope," Clara nodded slowly. "Yes, hope." Talk reached out but did not touch her. "We will face what comes next together. The past will not control us. The future is ours to shape." Clara felt a shift inside her, a gentle opening of her heart. Forgiveness was not complete and love was not yet spoken, but something had begun. A bond had formed, fragile and new, like a seed planted in the desert soil. The desert wind whispered around them, carrying the promise of danger and the hope of something greater. Clara realized that the frontier was not just a place of battle. It was a place where trust could grow and where the heart could heal. And somewhere deep inside, Clara felt the beginnings of courage beyond survival. Courage to forgive, to trust, and perhaps one day to love. The stars above Red Mesa burned bright and distant, a reminder of the vast universe around them. Two people from worlds once divided by history and pain were finding a way to stand together. Their hearts were cautious, their trust fragile, but the first step toward understanding had been taken. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but for now, Clara allowed herself to feel the warmth of the moment. The past still lingered and the future was uncertain, but she was no longer alone. Talk was there by her side, and the heart between two worlds was beginning to open. The morning sun rose slowly over Red Mesa, casting long shadows across the desert. Clara stood on the porch of her ranch, looking out at the horizon. Today felt different. The wind carried a tension she could not ignore. The corporate syndicate that had sent raiders before was returning, stronger and more determined. They had brought advanced drones, hover tanks, and soldiers with precision weapons. This time there would be no warning, they would strike with everything they had. Talk joined her quietly, his presence calm but commanding. "They come for your land," he said, "for the minerals beneath it. They will not stop until they take what they want." Clara's chest tightened. She had trained the townspeople, fortified the ranch, and prepared the defenses, but the sheer size of the syndicate's force was daunting. Still, she felt something else too, a steady confidence that had grown over the past days. With Talk by her side, she could face this challenge. "We fight together," she said firmly, "and we will protect this town." Talk nodded. "Together." By mid-morning, Red Mesa was ready. Energy shields hummed along the perimeter, plasma turrets glinted in the sun, and townspeople took their positions behind cover. Hover horses were ready, and both Clara and Talk had weapons in hand, their movements sharp and precise. The first signs of the syndicate's approach came as dust clouds on the horizon. Drones hovered over the desert, scanning for weaknesses. Soldiers advanced in formation, their energy rifles pointed toward the town. The tension was electric. Clara's heart raced, but she forced herself to focus. Talk gave a calm command. "Move to the hills, use the rocks for cover, wait for my signal." Clara and the others followed, moving quickly across the desert terrain. She glanced at Talk as they positioned themselves behind a large rock outcrop. His eyes scanned the horizon, calculating, patient, unshakable. She felt a rush of admiration and trust. The man who had once carried the shadow of her father's death was now her ally, her partner, and perhaps something more. The syndicate attacked. Drones fired bright plasma beams that cut through the desert air. Hover tanks rolled forward, their heavy weapons sending vibrations through the ground. Clara ducked behind the rocks, firing back at a drone that targeted a settler. She moved quickly, coordinating with Talk, who was already engaged with another group of attackers. They fought side by side, moving with a rhythm that seemed almost natural. Talk blocked attacks, guided townspeople to safety, and protected Clara whenever danger came too close. Clara realized she trusted him completely, more than she had trusted anyone in years. The battle raged for hours. Dust swirled, plasma beams streaked across the sky, and the sound of hover horses and energy rifles filled the desert. Clara fought with skill, courage, and determination, but she also fought alongside something else, an emerging bond with Talk. She felt his presence behind her, beside her, guiding and supporting her. At a critical moment, a syndicate soldier aimed at a group of settlers trying to escape. Talk leaped forward, firing with precision, disabling the soldier's weapon before anyone was hurt. Clara watched, her chest tightening, not with fear but with admiration. She realized the depth of her feelings, a mix of respect, trust, and something tender that had grown quietly between them. When the dust settled, the battle seemed to pause for a moment. Both sides had suffered losses, but Red Mesa stood strong. The syndicate's forces were regrouping, but Clara knew they could hold. Talk turned to her, his eyes meeting hers. "We are not finished," he said, "but we have held our ground. We fight together and we survive together." Clara felt a warmth in her chest. The anger she had carried for years, the grief that had shadowed every decision, today it felt lighter. Talk had earned her trust, not with words but with action, with courage, and with care for everyone around them. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for everything." Talk shook his head. "I do not ask for thanks, only that you see who I am now." As the sun dipped lower in the sky, the final wave of the syndicate approached. This time they used every machine and weapon at their disposal, confident that Red Mesa would fall. Clara and Talk prepared themselves, standing at the front, facing the threat together. The battle was fierce. Hover tanks fired, drones swooped down, and soldiers advanced with relentless precision. Clara and Talk moved as one, protecting townspeople, guiding escape routes, and taking calculated risks to disable enemy machines. They dodged energy blasts, leapt over rocky terrain, and worked with such coordination that even the townspeople were amazed. During the chaos, Clara found herself cornered by a squad of syndicate soldiers. Fear rose, but she did not panic. Talk appeared, deflecting their attack with swift movements and precise shots. Clara realized she could rely on him completely, not just for survival, but as a partner in every sense. When the last drone fell and the remaining syndicate forces retreated, the town erupted in relief. Clara's chest heaved, exhaustion and triumph mingling in her body. She looked at Talk, the man who had fought beside her through fire and chaos, who had shown honor, courage, and integrity in the face of danger. Talk approached her, his expression calm, yet his eyes full of emotion. "The threat is gone," he said. "Red Mesa is safe." Clara nodded, tears threatening her eyes. "Because of you, because of us," he shook his head gently. "Because we stood together, because we chose to face the past and protect the future." In that moment, Clara realized that the past, the anger, and the grief no longer controlled her. She had forgiven, not just Talk, but the pain that had haunted her for years. She had opened her heart to understanding, trust, and maybe even love. Talk reached for her hand, and she did not pull away. Their fingers touched, and a warmth spread through her. The desert wind carried the quiet sound of the town celebrating their victory, but around them there was a stillness, a moment suspended in time. "I know the past cannot be undone," Clara said softly, "but I choose to let go of the anger, and I choose to trust you." Talk's eyes softened. "That is all I could hope for. Trust, once given, can grow into something stronger, something lasting." Clara's heart swelled. The bond that had started with wariness, curiosity, and cautious respect had transformed into something deep and real. She felt the possibility of love, a feeling she had thought impossible after her father's death. The sun set behind the mountains, painting the sky in shades of red and gold. Clara and Talk stood together, looking out over the desert that had witnessed so much pain, courage, and now hope. The frontier was harsh and dangerous, but it was also a place where hearts could heal and where trust and love could grow. "You saved me," Clara said quietly. "No," Talk replied, shaking his head. "We saved each other." They stood in silence, hand in hand, feeling the weight of the past and the promise of the future. The town below them was safe, the settlers were alive, and the desert stretched endlessly under the stars. Clara realized that she had not only forgiven Talk, but had also found a partner, someone who understood her heart, her pain, and her courage. The frontier was no longer just a place of survival. It was a place of hope, love, and new beginnings. As night fell, Clara and Talk rode together across the plains, their hover horses moving silently through the desert. The stars above twinkled like diamonds, and the cool wind carried the scent of sage and earth. For the first time in years, Clara felt at peace. The past was behind her, the present was strong, and the future was bright. They stopped at the edge of a canyon, looking down at the town below. Clara leaned slightly against Talk, feeling the steady strength of his presence. She smiled softly, her heart light. "Together," she whispered. "Together," Talk replied, and their hands found each other once more. The desert stretched endlessly, a universe of challenges and possibilities. And for Clara and Talk, the heart between two worlds had finally found its home, one of forgiveness, trust, and love. The stars above Red Mesa shone brightly, a reminder that even in the harshest frontier, the heart could heal, the past could be forgiven, and love could bloom where hope was nurtured.